Hey everyone, and a special shout out to my fellow Canadians who have been anxiously waiting and anticipating this final moment, this legalization plan that's now finally got a date where it's going to go into effect under the Liberal Party of Canada. And like I said in past videos, in multiple past videos, it's nothing of the sorts. And hey, actually, if you've been waiting this long, or you're going to wait till October 17th, the big day of legalization in Canada, if you're going to wait till that date to light up, well, yeah, if you're that much of a conformist to the ruling class in Canada, you've already got a lot of problems. You've already got enough on your plate, and well, might be a little bit more actually once you start lighting up, right? You know how that creates the munchies. Yeah, there's going to be a whole lot more on your plate as far as legalization goes. And I'm not just talking about the munchies aspect of it. I'm talking about the fact that even though they call it legalization, once again, we're talking legalese here, right? You know, government speak, lawyer speak. So what does legalization truly mean? What does that entail in Canada? Yeah, well, it's definitely not just, hey, it's a plant. Well, look at it. It's a plant that grows from the earth, or hey, hydroponics in water, but it's a plant. You should be able to grow it, smoke it, eat it, shove it up your ass, right? Whatever. Hey, whatever. I guess different strokes for different folks, but not in Canada. You're not going to get that kind of freedom. You're not going to get that kind of liberty. You're not getting true freedom when it comes to being able to consume your plant of choice, or grow or cultivate your plant of choice, or distribute your plant of choice. No. This is Kanakistan. I mean, this is Canada, folks. So it comes with a whole lot of caveats, a whole lot of regulations, a whole lot of restrictions. And we're going to delve into it today. I'm going to be referencing this CBC News article under the politics section, which is where it rightfully remains, or where it rightfully should reside, because it is all politics. It's all political edict and opinion, folks. Like I say, legalization, like under the pretense of like a common sense rule of law, it'd be just, it's legal. That's it. It's legal. Do your thing, right? But nothing of the sorts, like I've said. Headline for this particular article: legal recreational marijuana, what you need to know. Lawyers warn Canadians could face delays or be barred for admitting to cannabis consumption at U.S. border. I don't know why that's the sub portion of the headline. You know, let's at least stick with what's going to happen in Canada, right? Shouldn't that be what we worry about the most? Not what's happening if you try to go to the U.S.? Anyways, like I say, well, it is the CBC, and I mean, those folks, those leftists, well, because Trump is in power down there, right? So I suppose they got to at least get one little dig at them before they actually start into talking about the topic at hand in any common sense or reasonable manner. And I won't even hold my breath for that. Oh, and by the way, this is being covered by John Paul Tasker, CBC News, June 22nd. The legislative battle over marijuana may be over, but as Canadians look ahead to October 17th, the date legalization takes effect, there are some practical considerations that should be top of mind for those keen to light up legally. First of all, and this is typical of Canada's federal system, not all provinces and territories are following the same path to legalization. Some are imposing different regulations on the drug within their jurisdictions. Two provinces, Quebec and Manitoba, are banning home cultivation altogether. So Quebec and Manitoba are saying, no, you definitely 100%, no. Yeah, it's legal only if you buy it through the crony corporations or the crown corporations or the government institutions that we tell you have to. So legalization, once again, that's not legalization. That's a monopolized takeover. That's basically like, yeah, you got a new kingpin in town, and hey, you better get on board. Or, you know, that's the thing when the old kingpins, the private, you know, the black market, well, they can't come and arrest you and put you in jail or incarcerate you or to destroy your life or your livelihood from not purchasing from them. But hey, the governments of Manitoba and Quebec, oh, they will. Like I say, legalization? Not so much, right? Canadians who cross the border frequently into the U.S. should prepare for American Customs and Border Patrol officers asking pointed questions about their drug histories. U.S. immigration lawyers are already warning Canadians that they could be denied entry to the U.S. or barred from the United States for life if they admit to smoking cannabis to a border agent. The drug is still a prohibited substance under U.S. federal law, despite legalization in some U.S. states. U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, an ardent anti-drug crusader, warned a group of Canadian Conservative senators recently that there could be longer wait times at the border because of enhanced secondary screening of Canadians. Once again, I don't even know why I'm covering this other than the fact, like, this is what the CBC wants to put forth and promote as the very fucking beginning of this article. Like, what? Why? That's shit that should be way at the end, right? We're talking, this is Canadian, this is a Canadian initiative, right? Can we deal with what the fuck Canada's talking about? Anyways, and what the provinces and what the federal government, we're going to get to it, folks, but like I said, they just got to do their little dig towards the U.S., and we'll get there. There is also the matter of amnesty or pardons for those Canadians who have been convicted of cannabis possession-related offenses, an issue that activists and the NDP have been pushing since the Liberal government unveiled its plan for legal marijuana. But until October 17th, the current law remains in place. Police can still make arrests for possession and Crown attorneys can still prosecute. So, I mean, we'll get down there a little bit further, but I'm already seeing that they've basically stopped at covering that particular portion of legalization and moved on. But think about it. Yeah, think about all the people that's sitting in the jails and the prisons in Canada for this fucking bullshit charge, this trumped up charge, whereas, think about it, all before October 17, all up till October 17, oh, you're such a bad person by doing anything that had to do with the marijuana industry that we got to lock you in a cage, you got to rip you away from your family and destroy your life for growing, consuming, cultivating, or distributing a plant. And no suggestions here, and I've already heard in the past, yeah, Trudeau don't want to give anyone no fucking pardons. You'll still be fucked. You'll still have a criminal record. They're still going to treat you like a second-class citizen in Canada. Once again, like I say, so it's not truly about being compassionate to the Canadian people and giving them a little bit of liberty or a little bit of freedom. It's just, like I say, it's just all about a monopolized industry and takeover by the government, whether it's federal or provincial, of a particular industry, so they can hopefully, tax the fuck out of it, micromanage and regulate it. Like I say, There's a reason why they're attempting to take over the marijuana industry, and the reason why is because it's flourished and grown in Canada as long as I've been alive. It's so rampant. The cultivation, the growing, and the distributing of marijuana in Canada, it's so rampant. You could go from one end of this country to the other, up to the north, down to the U.S. borders, and anywhere in between, and you can get yourself some good, high-quality marijuana, pot, cannabis, whatever you want to call it. You can get all that stuff already, and you have been for as long as I've been alive, and my parents and my grandparents and their great. So, once again, the products are already out there and available to you. And you know what? If you buy them from the black market, as much as those in government, the central planners, the crony corporates, the control freaks and sociopaths, you don't have to pay any taxes. Matter of fact, you get that beautiful aspect of actually a real market economy. So the price has been staying pretty much in line to what it used to be 40 years ago, but you get much higher quality, better stuff today than you did even 40 years ago, but the price of it is basically the same. That'll eventually change if the government of Canada and these crony corporations get their fucking hands where they can actually truly monopolize that industry. You'll see it just like alcohol, just like cigarettes and tobacco. You'll see how the prices will continue up. And I see all these people out there now that smoke. Like, when I was growing up, everyone smoked Players Light, Demore, Export A, like the big brand cigarettes. Now, most smokers don't even smoke them because they can't fucking afford it because of government regulations, government taxes. So, anyways, don't even get me started on that stuff. I mean, I could go on for an hour alone just on that shit. So, let's move on here. But basically, yeah, so you can still, hey, they're basically signaling to the police out there, these law enforcement dipshits, these control freaks, these authoritarians, that, hey, yeah, you can still go fuck with Canadians. Hey, if you see anyone lighting up that joint, which will be like today, oh, it's illegal, and we're going to fuck you up, we're going to screw you up hardcore. But tomorrow, oh, no, it'll be cool, right? No, that's cool. Like, what the fuck, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde? Like, schizophrenia, right? Bipolar these politicians seem to be. But that's professional liars, ultimately. That's what they are. And like I say, these authoritarians are just doing their best, and they have their political propagandists here that are trying to double down and give you some kind of reasoning behind their fucking bullshit authoritarian method as far as giving people the freedom to smoke a plant or grow a plant or distribute a plant. Once marijuana is legal, Canadians will be permitted to purchase fresh or dried cannabis, cannabis oil, plants, and seeds for cultivation from either a provincially or territorially regulated retailer, or, where the option is not available, directly from a federally licensed producer. So, like right there. Right there, think about it. It's all, you have to buy your weed from a provincial or federally regulated crony corporation, crown corporation, or government entity. So, once again, folks, it's just about the mafioso, aka government, trying to take over or assume monopoly in an industry that's already flourished. So, I don't know. Are Canadians foolish enough? Are they naive enough to even abide by this shit? Oh, I sure shit hope not. I sure shit hope that Canadians aren't going to go stand in line at some fucking provincial or federally regulated monopolized industry or crony corporation to get their weed, when there's all kinds of places all over this country that you can get it at a much better price point and much better quality, no doubt. Oh, and they can possess up to 30 grams of dried legal cannabis or its equivalent in public. So if you get that, but you better make sure you got that stamp, that seal of approval, right? That says, hey, I bought this from a government regulated dispensary. Otherwise, well, you still have to suffer the consequences of buying from someone that's not a friend of the government or anointed by a central planner. Share up to 30 grams or its equivalent of legal cannabis and legal cannabis products with other adults. So you can smoke a joint and pass it around. Whoa! Think about that. Now that's legalization, folks. Oh, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure everyone that smokes weed already, that's kind of what they do. And sharing is actually goes in hand with puffing up, with lighting up, right? But no, whatever. Now it's legal. Now, this is actually the only one portion of this whole legalization effort that I actually agree with and I appreciate, and it might give you some tiny area of reprieve for many Canadians, which is you'll be able to cultivate up to 4 plants at home, which is 4 plants total per household. So even if you have 5 people that smoke weed in your home, now you can't get 20 plants. Now the government's not going to allow that, so you're all going to have to share those 4 plants. So, well, anyways, but it's better than nothing, right? Prepare various cannabis products such as edibles at home for personal use, provided that no dangerous organic solvents are used in the process. Once again, something that's already been happening as long as I've been alive that I know. This, what are you getting? Oh, you can grow up to 4 plants. Although there's people that now, even though it's illegal, right now currently it's illegal, but there's people that grow a whole lot more than even 4 plants. And enforcement's not, they're trying to knock down or raid every household that's growing a few plants. So what's really changing? Not a whole lot, is there? While the federal government was responsible for the bill that ultimately will legalize recreational marijuana possession, home growing, and sales to adults by dismantling key aspects of the criminal code that maintained prohibition for 95 years, the practical details of implementing legalization have been left largely to the provinces and territories. So, once again, even with Trudeau, they can put forth present that you can do these things, but yeah, the provinces may very well screw you out of any of these, even these tiny, minute changes in the criminal code that will allow you for a little bit of freedom in regards to marijuana, cultivation, distribution, or consumption. So it's still up in the air, folks. Ottawa delayed full legalization to allow provinces some extra time to get their retail storefront and online sales outlets up and running. In some provinces, including Ontario, Quebec, and most of Atlantic Canada, the stores will be run by the provincial governments, like the liquor stores. Elsewhere, the private sector will take the lead. So anywhere east of Ontario, right? It says Ontario, Quebec, and most of the Atlantic Canada. So, basically half of the country, it's all going to be taken over and assume a monopoly by government retail outlets. Legalization, once again, for the umpteenth time, nothing of the sorts. That term, like I said, they politicized that very term of legalization to the point where it's just a takeover, a monopoly. That's not what legalization means, but hey, politicians, professional liars, they can spin a narrative in just such a manner. And I guess a lot of people will suck it up hook, line, sinker because, hey, Canadians voted for the Liberals under that pretense that they were going to give them some freedoms. Well, now you're getting to know what those freedoms truly represent, what they truly entail. That's just, like I say, your authoritarian mommy or your authoritarian daddy telling you that, hey, I'll let you do this, but only if you do it while standing on one foot, patting your head with one hand, rubbing your belly with the other, and praising me as your authority while doing so. Then, and only then, will I allow you to consume some marijuana. Some health experts recommended the sale of cannabis be restricted to those 24 years of age and over because of the negative impact the drug can have on the developing brain. But all Canadian jurisdictions have settled on either 18 or 19 years old as the legal age of consumption. The local legal ages for drinking alcohol and consuming marijuana have been largely harmonized. But the rules on where you can smoke pot are a patchwork. Story continued after the graph. Yes, this is the part where you're going to get a real eye-opening awakening to this pretense of legalization, folks. So just look at this chart here. I'll show it here, and so you can see. You've got Alberta, British Columbia, Manitoba, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Northwest Territories, Nova Scotia, Nunavut, Ontario, PEI, Quebec, Saskatchewan, Yukon, all of their own regulation as to where you can smoke it. But you'll see, it's like, for the most part, you can't smoke except for in your own home, which if you're alive and you got a pulse today and you like smoking weed, then chances are you're probably already doing that, right? I mean, hello? In general, people can light up on private property and in private residences. In most provinces, landlords will be able to prohibit the consumption of cannabis in rental accommodations, just as they often do with tobacco products. The same goes for home cultivation. While most provinces, except Quebec and Manitoba, will adhere to the federal law that allows for 4 cannabis plants per household, some jurisdictions are giving landlords the power to curb the practice. In Ontario, for example, condominium boards will be permitted to restrict home cultivation entirely, even in units that are owner-occupied. So even if you bought your home and it's a condominium, and that'll have to do with even some of these freeholds or townhomes and areas where you actually went out and spent your money, put down that hard-earned cash, and put yourself on debt for 2+ decades at least to buy these homes. No, they'll still be able to tell you can't even grow within your own home. So, once again, legalization? Not really. The country's real estate agents have warned that home cultivation could depress property values and lead to a spike in property crime. Alberta, British Columbia, and Nova Scotia will allow people to smoke cannabis in areas where tobacco consumption is allowed, which is not very many places these days, right? With some restrictions. It can't be consumed in a car or in places near children. Quebec will prohibit cannabis smoking on universities and college campuses. Good luck with that one. All provinces will be empowered to more aggressively police impaired driving. There we go. Bill C-46, which also passed through Parliament last week, allows provincial police forces, the RCMP, and local police to conduct mandatory roadside impaired driving tests for alcohol. But police also will be able to demand a driver provide an oral fluid sample, saliva, if they suspect a driver is impaired by drugs. And they've already said they don't even need probable cause. They can just basically, I suspect, no real grounds for it, but I don't like the way this person looks, so I'm going to test them, right? That's so actually right now, currently, enforcement for drugs, it's minimal at best. So they're still concentrating on screwing over the alcohol consumers out there, right? And fucking preemptively destroying their lives, criminalizing their fucking, vice of choice. But now, like I say, now they've created whole legislation here, folks. And if you don't think the government's not going to take advantage of, and they're loyal or obedient enforcers, they're mindless enforcers. If you don't think they're not going to take advantage of the fact that they've got a whole new law, whole new set of laws that they can use to enforce and fuck over and restrict people's abilities to, consume cannabis, well, like I say, you just watch. You watch how this plays out. You watch how this unfolds. And you'll see over the culmination. And it won't even take nearly as long as what it did for alcohol to be turned into, like, people that drink alcohol now and get behind the wheel, even if you're completely competent, if you've only had a couple drinks or anything of the sorts where you're not causing any harm or criminality towards other people. Well, people that, consume alcohol and drive, oh, look at all the propagandists, mad mothers against drunk driving. Oh, they've turned the fucking people that do that into basically not just second-class citizens, but people that are vilely hated and loathed and detested by the public because of that big propagandist. They say, ooh, if you drink and drive, look, you're going to kill a family of 4. How dare you do that? Well, you'll get that same kind of propagandist campaign, those hit pieces, that kind of hatred, that kind of vitriol will be going now towards those of you who smoke, consume, and operate a vehicle, but it's not alcohol, it's weed, which weed and alcohol are two totally different substances. Not going to say they're the same as far as impairment, but once again, it should never be that just because someone consumes a particular product that you should be preemptively deemed a criminal by any stretch of the imagination. Once again, criminality should be a result of where there is an actual victim that is involved and where you've caused physical harm to another human being, or where you have caused them to lose their life or livelihood for that matter. If you've done something that has caused harm, detrimental harm to another person, well, that is criminality. But this pretense, this presumption, this preemptive acting towards people that consume a particular vice of choice as if they're a criminal just by that sheer fact alone, like I say, it's been devastating and detrimental for alcohol consumers for decades and decades. And now they're coming for you, cannabis smokers, pot smokers, weed smokers. These new drug-related offenses will also be created for drivers. A driver who has a blood level of more than 5 nanograms of THC, the primary psychoactive found in cannabis, or has been drinking alcohol and smoking pot at the same time will face a fine and the possibility of jail time. That's right, jail time. And they're back again to this. One issue continues to be a legal gray zone, the Canada-U.S. border. Anyways, we've already heard this is like the 3rd or 4th time they're talking about the U.S. border thing. But anyways, let's just move on from this. Here we are as far as this is actually now we're finally down to the point where they're talking about amnesty or pardons for those who have been criminally convicted in the past. A landmark Senate study on the legalization of drugs recommended way back in 2002 that marijuana be decriminalized and that the government of Canada declare an amnesty for anyone convicted of cannabis possession under current or past legislation. It's a call that has been echoed by activists, the NDP, and even Liberal MP Nathaniel Erskine Smith. In the government's eyes, though, this remains a non-starter until the current legal regime is fully dismantled and replaced with the system outlined in the marijuana legalization bill. So, they might, if you all fall in line and start buying from your government-mandated dispensaries or distributors, they might, maybe at some point in time in the future, give you a little bit of reprieve. But hey, not until. Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould has said the question of amnesty is premature since legalization does not take effect until October, right? So you can't think that far ahead enough to know what you're going to do or what you could potentially do for the people that have been screwed over and had their lives turned upside down in the past for doing something that's now going to be legal? You can't think that far ahead? Really? Jody? Holy fuck. What kind of brain is that's rolling around in your cranium there? doesn't seem to function very well. What the hell's up with that? I think, as has already been stated, the law remains in effect until it's repealed and replaced through Bill C-485, and quite frankly, any discussion of those records can't take place until that process is complete, she said. Anyways, that pretty much covers most of the things that I wanted to talk about and deal with in this particular video. Because, like I've been saying, I mean, just looking at my past videos, folks, I've done probably at least a half a dozen or more. I suspect even more than that, in the fact that, yeah, I foreseen this coming. All you have to do is understand, like, the inner workings, the mindset of people that want to be your authority. The people that want to become politicians and become part of the ruling class. They don't want to give you freedoms, folks. This was never about, and Trudeau was never about giving you any freedoms. It was all about something they knew was popular, they knew they could get traction with. All they had to do is put forth and present a narrative that, hey, they were going to give you some kind of freedoms, and the young people in particular that they wanted to vote for them, they knew they would fall in line and jump on board. But like I said, you'll all come to realize that these fuckers don't want to give you any freedoms. They just want to benefit at your expense. They loathe the fact that your local drug dealer, you know, your mom or pops, you know, your local dude, or the guy that just fucking happens to use that to supplement his income from his minimum wage job, or the guy that, you know, that's his thing, right? He's an entrepreneur and he's grown drugs and sold them for most of his life. The government's like, oh, we hate these fuckers because we're not getting any cut of the action. Damn it. We can't have these fucking people out there profiting off of something without us getting a chunk, without us getting a cut. Hell no. That's what these central planners, that's all they were thinking. It was dollar signs and pushing out their competition, pushing out those that have been providing weed, cannabis, pot to the Canadian people for, like I say, longer than I've been alive. But I suspect, as what's happened down in Colorado, most Canadians will realize that, no, don't go support these crony corporations, these crown corporations, these government-regulated industries. No, keep supporting the people that have always been there for you, that have always had your drug or vice of choice or your recreational drug of choice. Those people that have been there for you all along, keep supporting them. And trust me, the government will eventually have to pivot more towards genuine freedom and liberty. Once they realize that they can't just take over the industry, well, they'll either do that or they'll go back to criminalize it once again. Because that's another thing with political edicts and political decrees. They can completely reverse and change their mind somewhere at some point in time in the future. So you got that to look forward to as well. Keep that in mind, Canada. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.